I'm here, Kobe Sanders. We're about less than 4 weeks away from the draft.
Yes, sir.
Kobe, I
Yes, sir.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, sir. So, we're in the heat of the pre-draft process. You're on the verge of your dream, right? So
Yes, sir.
let's turn it back. Like your basketball journey. What are you most proud of? What sticks out to most of you about your journey, and what kind of makes you you?
I think the journey starts at an early age. I think we got to go back to when I first picked up the basketball, and I think that started with a story that my parents always tell me. They handed me a basketball and a football in my crib when I was a baby, and I chose the basketball, and from there it kind of took off. And we've always been a basketball family. My mom's side is all basketball. All her four brothers are all in the Hall of Fame. Three of them in the Hall of Fame at North Dakota State. So a big basketball family, and then my dad played all three sports in high school. Ended up playing football in college, but he was able to pass that work ethic onto me, and from there I was able to run with it. And then just having an older brother, he's 2.5 years older than me. I always looked up to him. He was always able to push me. The one-on-ones, the sweat, the grind, the tears, just being able to see him grow, and then him teaching me all the things on what not to do and what to do. So. That started at a young age, and then from there going into high school, I was probably only like 5'8", so I was a smaller guard. Me and my brother were point guards. We always worked on our guard skills, and growing up, I always thought I was going to be a small guard, and I was blessed by the end of high school to reach 6'6". So it kind of changed for me, my play style and everything. So just developing with that, getting a mid-post game, and continuing to keep my guard skills. That kind of helped me get some looks out of high school. I was probably 6'6", 165, so super skinny, but oozing with potential. So I was blessed to have a couple looks, and I think I ended up at Cal Poly just because of the family environment they showed me. And Coach Smith really, his first recruiting class was my class, so he really was focused on the future and really saw my potential and saw what I could grow into. And that's kind of why I went there, and I was able to stick with him for 4 years because I want to show everything that he poured into me. I want to pour back into him. So I just really respect the future he saw in me. So I wanted to give him all the years, and I trusted him, and I was able to grow a lot there. I think my first couple of years, it wasn't the best as personal, and we weren't winning as well. So, a lot of growing pains, a lot of struggles, a lot of trying to figure out what I got to do, looking myself in the mirror, very dark times, leaning on my why, leaning on my family, leaning on my brother. He's always there for me. So, in those dark times, and just leaning on the work, just knowing that the work's always going to pay off. So, through those 4 years, there was lots of ups and downs, and I was able to blossom in my senior year. And I had a really good year, which led to me being able to take it to a next level once, sadly, Coach Smith got fired, And then after that, I chose Nevada. Just, going into the portal, there's 9 new guys joining teams, and, you know, all the commotion, and you don't really know what you're going to get when you're going to some of these teams. And I felt like Nevada already had a base. They lost 2 of their main guys, but they already had a core that's been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments, and guys who could kind of teach me the culture. And then obviously 2 veteran coaches with Steve Alford and Craig Neal, who knows what it takes to get to the next level and knows what it takes to win at that level, and really taught me a lot of things. So that's kind of why I chose to go to Nevada.
Definitely. You talk about earlier, being from a basketball family, more of a late bloomer, right? So you grew up playing point guard, working on your handle, your vision. And I think once we get into the tape, that certainly shows. Another thing that stands out, you just described, you went through some adversity, right? Yes, you're a transfer, but, you stayed somewhere 4 years and grew. Grew with, core group. You had a coach that believed in you, like you said, having some continuity with when you joined the team. And I think, that growth trajectory is going to be something, the adversity, late bloomer, growth trajectory, those are good, boxes to check off to NBA teams. But a little bit different this year in the draft, right? With NIL and with, all the different rev share packages, a lot of guys at the combine, or guys didn't even want to go to the combine. They just returned to school. So we're kind of in a situation where a lot of the, draftable guys are either, one and dones, or guys like you that, have that experience, kind of entering the league a little bit, maybe mentally tougher, a little bit more resilient. You see that as like a competitive edge for you as you make this next step?
Most definitely, as an older player, and terms of the draft, I definitely use that to my advantage. I think the maturity level is something that I have that a lot of players don't have. And like you talked earlier about the adversity I've been through. I've been through tough times. I understand what it takes to go through. It's not always going to be a perfect lining, a silver lining, and I feel like just knowing that I could work through adversity, no matter how it's going, I'm gonna come in and be an everyday guy. Is kind of what I hang my hat on. So I think that's a big value to me.
Went to
Definitely.
Portsmouth. I was there. I thought you were the clear standout, showcasing your playmaking, your vision, the mid range. I thought, you had some nice moments defensively. That could be something NBA teams are asking you about throughout this process. Only guy to get called up directly to the combine. So you didn't have to go to elite camp, directly to the NBA combine. First off, what was that experience like, proving yourself at Portsmouth, interviewing teams, and kind of it's been a long 2 months. And then second part, what was it like once you heard you got the direct invitation, and how, gratifying, fulfilling was that to you?
So right after season, I kind of just got straight to work. So I headed to Dallas. That's where my agency is set up, and was grinding and preparing for Portsmouth, which was the biggest thing coming up. You only could focus at one thing at a time. So the biggest thing going into that event, was just be myself. I think a lot of people try to go there, and they want to show everything they could do, try to be outside of themselves, and you just got to be yourself and know that you put in the work and just let the work show for itself. So just going into that was my mindset. Just be myself, make the right play, make the right reads, and go out there and show them what I could do. And I was blessed to get the opportunity to show myself, and that led to going straight to the combine, which was a blessing in itself. You don't really hear that very often, and I was the only one to do it this year. So it was a blessing. And when I got that call, it really meant a lot. I exchanged a call with my family, and how much it meant, but the work wasn't done. So just excited to get to the next step and keep working.
Before we kind of jump into the film, if you're a GM, right, you're breaking down Kobe Sanders, like what are the things you would hit on? Like break down your game to people who haven't, seen you play.
Big guard that always plays the right way. You don't find a lot of 6'8" point guards, and especially not ones that can make the right read at all times. Versatile defender, can guard 1 through 4. And then lives in the mid-range, loves the mid-range shot, and can shoot the ball, space the floor as well, and just a smart player all around.
Yeah, so kind of jumping into the film, I think first thing that sticks out, you alluded to it, the vision, the patience, and, the feel for the game of your size, being a late bloomer. I think that's something that, immediately draws the attention when you, watch your film right here. Nice bounce pass and transition. Shows in the open floor. I love this one, trailing, immediate, just quick hit, find them, rim run, gets fouled, and one. And then, we'll get into like the pick and roll stuff, but like, I think, immediate impact, like I think a really good quote for, unless you're a top 2, top 3, and sometimes even those guys in the NBA, you got to fit in before you stick out. Right.
Definitely.
So I think, stuff like this, where you're able to, attack closeout, quick dump off, really tight window. I think that translates the quick decision making, good replay here, really tight window. You're comfortable passing left and right hand, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah, same one here. I think this is Colorado State was a hell of a team, man. Playing quarterfinals,
Yeah.
aggressive closeout from Nick Clifford. Like you said, 34% three-point shooter this year, demand a closeout. Just quick read, really tight window. I think, that's a clear standout. Another one here, running the baseline, little two-man action, nice bounce pass. You like utilizing the bounce pass, right?
Yes, sir. Just making the right read and just knowing how to fit in the gap is the biggest thing. Sometimes it's going to be a little shuffle pass, but you got to get under them hands or over them hands. So just trying to make the right play every time.
You're someone who played a lot on the ball, right? You're kind of a big guard, playmaker. As you make the next steps in your career, I know a lot of guys are probably asking you throughout the pre-draft process, pro comps or who are the players you might have game after. I'm going to kind of switch it up for you. Watching these playoffs, what are like some roles? What are some kind of functions within the team? You're like, oh, I could do that early, right? Like maybe a little bit more lower scale stuff. Like what's something you think you could do early?
I think definitely like a secondary ball handler. Early, make the right read all the time, and then just off ball, you could use your IQ as well. And I think I hang my hat on that, knowing when to cut and when to screen, knowing the offense inside and out, and being able to space the floor and make reads off the ball is as big as making reads on the ball. So I think that's the biggest thing I've seen. And then obviously being a versatile defender that could guard everything. Nowadays, most of the time you're switching everything. So being a guy that could switch everything and cause havoc on the defensive end is very valuable.
Yeah, I think you showed some quick reads throughout the season, hockey assist. Not sure if I put it in here a couple times where like you try to feed the post, you don't have it. Quick read, you're motioning to your teammate, like throw it over the top. They have a better angle. I think you show the feel for a game. I think that's number one attribute. Another one here, I think you do a good job. Defense collapses, spray it, right? Find shooters. This is NBA offense. Always want to find shooters. Another one here. You guys run that little baseline screening action.
Yes, sir.
You draw all five. Nice little bounce pass to the corner, right in his pocket. So pick and roll. I think this is maybe one of the more exciting parts of your game. There's not a lot of guys your size that operated out of as many ball screens in this draft.
Most
so
definitely.
I cut up some good reads. We're going to allow you to kind of break these down, what you see. I think it starts with the patience, the vision, and the touch. Would you agree?
Most definitely. Just taking it one step at a time and slowing the game down, playing at your own pace. Never let anybody speed you up.
And with your size, you're able to utilize that vision. You can see things that maybe a 6'3", 6'2", 6'4" guard isn't able to see.
Exactly.
First one here, Charleston Classic. I'll start with this. A Charleston Classic, really strong performance for you, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think you really, demanded some NBA attention starting at this event. I remember being at the Legends Classic and the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. It was a couple of days after. And, talking to scouts, you're like, have you seen Kobe Sanders? Like, y'all need to be paying attention to Kobe Sanders. I like Kobe Sanders. I heard that, 3-4 different teams, I think really showcased your game at this event.
It was definitely a good tournament. And, any opportunity on a big stage to show yourself is just a blessing. And I'm able to do that and just be myself. So this is just a two-man game. We kind of got everybody playing to themselves, so you don't really have to read the tags. Everybody's staying home, so just kind of reading the guy in front of me. He collapses, he stays hard. I see him jump in the air knowing my big's open, so trying to find the best angle to get it to him. And a good play by KJ being strong and going up with it.
Yeah, I think you do a great job, those little like kind of sidearm little passes, almost like a quarterback.
Yeah, just try to find the best angles using my length.
Definitely. Another one here, quick, like we said earlier, defense collapses, get rid of it, spray it. Ball finds back to you. Yeah, patience here.
Yeah, so literally I'm talking to Nick. I see they was hard hedging all game, so when he's running up, the guy's kind of running too fast. So I know he's a slower foot guy, so I'm telling him slip. Great read, and he made a great play and he put the ball in the hoop.
This season, a lot was thrown at you. They say they threw the kitchen sink at you, right? I mean, you were top the scouting report for 30, 35 games. What was your favorite pick and roll coverage to face? Like you were like, oh man, I'm about to feast. And what was one that throughout the year you kind of had to make counters to, learn, study the film for?
I think obviously with my mid range, the drop is free money for me. So there wasn't a lot of teams that played it, obviously, but anytime I saw that, they didn't want to make an adjustment. I kind of licked my chops, but I think the hardest one was obviously just a double team. Any team that just trapped and tried to get me off the ball. Obviously, if my big makes a good play, it's easy just to dump it straight to him. But just being able to be strong with it and make the right read out of the double team and make sure I'm reading the backside so they don't jump my pass, because sometimes you got to loft it over the top and stuff. So I watched a lot of film on that.
Yeah, I think either this one or the next one we show that kind of over the top pass. Yeah, right here.
Just using my height, using my length, and then reading the backside. Obviously, Trey shot the ball pretty well this year, so if the tag's staying home, I know I got my big rolling to the hoop and easy read for me.
Yep. Big time angle with the pass, really high up. That's hard to guard. Yeah, no, just patience one here. Yeah, walk us through this one.
Came off the first time, didn't really have anything, set a rescreen. They was doubling most of the game, so trying to make a read, trying to find a hole. We had kind of bad spacing, and I got myself into a little bad situation. But Anytime you draw three to the ball, someone's open. So trying to use my eyes to throw off the backside defender, and he lifts up a little bit, I'm able to find Nick underneath.
Playing off two, pivots, footwork, is that something you had time to develop throughout college?
Most definitely. As a freshman, we all come in trying to go off one and, try to dunk everything, lay up off one. And, especially being at a mid-major school, lower major school, I think the first thing they teach you is play off two. Like, we big fundamentals. So definitely learned that along the way and kind of perfected it. And, to my advantage, I'm not the fastest. I'm not the quickest. So using my angles, using my footwork is kind of how I have to get through tough situations.
Yeah, it's a great asset to have. And I would add, I was in the Big Ten, and that was still the first thing they taught guys. Another awesome one here, just showing your vision, showing your feel for the game. You hit them with a bump, draw help, pump fake. And we talk about those windows, right?
Yeah.
Tight window, awesome hockey assist.
Yeah, it's a great one more pass too.
Definitely. Another one here. We start to show that mid-range.
Yeah.
Good patience.
Ball fakes, pivots.
So you alluded to it earlier. You're real comfortable in the mid-range. You have the size, you have the touch, you have the balance to get to your spots, and the patience where if you're playing off two, you get a little bit of space. I mean, you can fire the mid-range. Walk us through a couple of these and, the ultimate reads before you ended up, taking the shot.
Yeah. So this is just a ball screen. Come off the screen, they're kind of in a low show. You kind of have to attack that big. So I put my guy in jail as my big's rolling. He's continuing to fall with the roller. So I have a free look at the hoop and then just setting my feet and being able to rise over anybody. With my height. And at a young age, once I started growing in high school and stuff. My trainers and stuff told me I'm gonna make a lot of money in this area. So this has been a focus since high school, and just being able to rise over anybody is kind of definitely a benefit.
This was a big shot, man.
Yeah, no, game on the line. Get the switch you want, trying to attack him downhill. He does a good job cutting me off originally, but just a little too much space, so I'm able to step back, find my spot. It's about attacking kind of spots rather than attacking the player. So just attacking my spot, finding the opening.
This contend for your favorite shot of the season?
Most definitely. I'd have to say this one or the game winner against VCU. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have the VCU one next.
Yeah.
So, we showed the playmaking, the feel for the game, ability to pass at your size, really comfortable in the mid-range. Big area for you, right? Big area for anyone translating to the NBA is going to be three-point shooting, right? Shot 34% this year. I think, your volume, your efficiency improved a little bit throughout college. We'll go through some of these different shots. This is the game winner, which, again, we talk about resilience, a couple possessions before.
18 points off turnovers tonight. Step back.
Shoulder gets you on the step back, hits a big three. Crowd's really into it, right? It's the momentum shifts. I think this shows, staying ready, being ready in the corner. You're calling for it, like you're ready to knock down that shot. Was that what your mindset was like after that?
Yeah, most definitely. And the crazy part is the game before this, we played Vanderbilt, and I had a shot a little higher up, but basically in the same spot. I think it was tie game or we were down a little bit, and I missed it.
Has punched back for the lead.
I basically airballed it, barely nicked the rim. So just, having confidence in yourself, having confidence in your shot, you put the work in. So, live for these big moments like this.
Yeah, this is an awesome shot. VCU is a really good team, made the tournament. When you're shooting the ball really well, what are the things clicking for you mechanically, mentally, footwork? Like, what's the keys for you as a shooter?
I think, first of all, not overthinking it, and then making sure your feet are good at first. The base is the biggest thing, getting your feet down, and then making sure everything up top is good. And I've been trying to take a little dip that out of my shot a little bit, so to get it a little quicker. So focusing on that, and then finishing high through my follow through.
We talk about the shooting, the playmaking, and we got some drives here. I think, this is maybe an area you've grown a lot through college. Usually the guys that grow late, this is kind of the biggest growth area throughout college because you're getting used to the contact. You're getting used to being a higher center of gravity. And then also, younger guys I know it. I was a short guy growing up. Short guards, most guards are pretty short. You're not used to finishing at the rim, right? You're used to
Sure.
getting downhill and
Flow.
finding other guys, floater, mid range, because, you don't want to get your shot blocked. So, we got some good drives. We got some bad drives, maybe not bad, but, we'll ask you kind of what your process is
Yeah.
to start here, break down this one. Nick Clifford, one of the best defenders in college basketball this year, should be a first round pick. Break this one down.
Most definitely. We're running our little baseline screenplay. So it's kind of the bottom three play together, trying to get this guy open with the screen slips and stuff like that. And then our top two guys play together, and I seen them kind of a little overcommit to thinking I'm passing. So I kind of faked out, crossed back over, able to get downhill. And with this offense, none of the help side defenders are focused on the screens and everything. So they're not really focused on me. So I'm able to get straight to the hoop and get an easy layup.
Yeah, a little finesse layup. Let's see. All right, break down this one. A little bit crowded, a little bit tough.
Yeah, so spin back. I thought I could split with a little through dribble. Good defensive play. He gets a hand on it. I think I could have kicked it out to Nick. Hindsight 2020, but I thought I could get through with a through dribble, and he was able to get a hand on it.
Yep. Next one. A little Spain action.
Yep.
This is where you talked about a little bit earlier in the pick and roll, drawing that big, being patient. I think you did a great job here, just drawing them out, watching them recover, and then taking advantage of the poor position you put them in footwork wise.
100%. And just knowing that the guy that's supposed to be in the gap is trying to run back to Nick, so he's not really going to be focused on being in the gap. Kind of gives me free range to get downhill right here. And the big man's a little late. I'm able to be physical and finish over the top.
Yep, and I paired those together actually because the one before, you protect the ball, you get hit. This one, really good gather, strong with the basketball, and you're able to finish through contact. Next one, back in that quarterfinal against Colorado State. Walk us through this one.
Two sped up. I think I could have, trying to get a quick finish up and just wasn't able to get it high enough on the backboard. And then got to be a little more physical, getting my body into him. I'm kind of lost balance there.
Yeah, I think something you did maybe on some other possessions I saw throughout the season is we talk about 2 feet, but also, having that length, being patient in that lane line, and then, reverses or, drawing fouls. I think that's a good asset for you. But I kind of want to talk about being a bigger guy in the pick and roll. It can be difficult, like pick and roll setups, right?
For sure.
Because, guys can get under you, right? You got the long arms, you're taller. Like, how have you progressed with your pick and roll setups throughout your college career? And is that something you think you take pride in? Or
most definitely, little guards are going to try to get into you and try to squeeze through the screen. So just bringing them to the level of the screen and really making sure you run them off is a big thing. It's definitely progressed. I think early on in my college career, I struggled at it. And that was kind of one of my flaws. So just watching film and just trying to perfect it, working on it in the gym.
Definitely. We showed you kind of, doing that little push dribble through traffic. We showed you kind of driving, spinning, shooting your body. Like, what are your favorite moves or kind of in the toolbox? What do you like to utilize most when you're trying to fight to get to the paint?
I think playing off 2 feet is the biggest thing, being under control. Obviously, if I could get to the rim fast, I want to get to the rim. But being able to pivot, being able to use back foot finishes, use pump fakes, just being patient in the paint. At my size, I could always shoot over them. So just being patient, trying to find angles to get the best shot or make the best read.
Gotcha. And then defensively, I'm just going to say self-scout. We're kind of break down in your own words what you're good at defensively, what you need to grow at. What do you think will be important for your transition?
I've been working on this offseason is getting a little quicker, being able to open up my hips and then getting a little stronger because I want to guard the quickest one and I want to guard the biggest four. So getting a little quicker, being able to open up my hips and then at a high level and then getting a little more physical so I can guard the bigger fours in the league. So that's been the big focus this offseason. And, I've showed it at the college level that I could guard 1 through 4. Now I need to show it at the pro level.
Gotcha. Broke down your game, going through, starts with the playmaking, starts with the instincts, the feel. Someone that grew up a point guard. Now you're, I think, 6'7", right? 6'8"?
6'8".
One of the bigger guards in the draft. The playmaking, the shooting, what you think you need to improve on as a defender, what you offer as a defender. You think there's any, other aspect of your game you think is maybe underrated or something you want to grow on? Like, is there anything else you'd like to touch on?
I think one of my biggest assets as a player is being a locker room guy. I think a lot of people, don't get to see that. That can't be really on a scouting report. You don't really get to see that. But I pride myself in pouring to others. So I think it starts off the court, getting to know your players, knowing what ticks them, what turns them, and then everything else is going to translate on the court. So I think I'm a big locker room guy. I'm a big into pouring into others who work around me, and I think that's one of the things I hang my hat on.
I think the pro comp stuff is probably exhaustive by June, right? Whether it's the combine or Portsmouth or NBA teams. Let's kind of break it down a little bit unique way. First, we said kind of the roles or stuff, but who are some players you just watch and let's pick apart aspects of their game that you admire? You say you watch film, student of the game.
J-Dub, Jalen Williams from OKC. I think versatile guard, forward. With his size, he's able to utilize the mid-range, get downhill, but he always makes quick reads. I think that's what I like about his game a lot. And, he's good at drawing defenders and making the right read every time. So I think that's one thing I'd like to take from his game for sure.
How's the actual pre-draft process gone? So, since the combine, going through team workouts.
I tweaked my ankle at the combine. So I had to take 2 weeks off after that. So this is week 2 of workouts for me. And it's been going well so far. It's a lot of traveling, a lot of toll on the body. So just making sure you take care of the body and, every day just go in there, be yourself. And definitely some hard workouts, but just pushing through, trying to show your best foot forward, and then competing is the biggest thing. I think every workout you go to, you fighting for a job, you fighting for your family. So just going in there, competing your butt off, and just going into every workout, being grateful as well. As much travel as it is, as hard as it is, it's a blessing. So a lot of people would die to be in the position I am. So going in there grateful helps me in every workout, and I'm able to compete as hard as possible.
Certainly. I appreciate your time. I think it was fun to break down, what makes you unique as a prospect, which makes you, a draft pick this year. Last question for you. If you're NBA GM could only watch one game from your college career, which game would it be and why?
I would say for my whole college career, I would probably say Boise game. I would say the Boise game. I think I showed a lot of versatility, showed about everything, showed stuff on the defensive end as well. So I'd say the Boise game.
Well, Kobe, I appreciate your time and wishing you the best through this pre-draft process.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the time, man. It means a lot.